The Baggies Podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Now available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Back again for, I guess this is kind of a new season, but we're back again after a bit of a break. Well, I'm still on a bit of a break. I'm just coming back for an emergency podcast here to talk all about our new manager, Valérien Ismaël, which I think is going to be a fantastic signing and appointment for West Bromwich Albion. So we're going to be talking all about that. That's been announced yesterday by the club. We're going to be reading everything the club has said about it and also talking a bit about it and getting your thoughts on it too. I'll be sharing what I think is going to be quite an interesting appointment and an insight into his play style. I've done an article about it, so I can sort of read that out to you and give you a bit of an insight into what we could expect from his play style at the Hawthorns and what he can bring really to the club, what sort of different things, why is everybody really hyping him up. We're going to go through all of that. I'll also cast an open net and give you guys your chance to share your opinions on Valérien Ismaël and talk about whether you guys think he's a good appointment or not. At least it's a move in the right direction by appointing a manager. It doesn't actually, it seems a while ago that we'd finished the season. It's only been about a month and 5 days or something like that. So it's not really been that long. So for anybody panicking, it's not been that long. But we finally got our manager, and that is Valérien Ismaël. If you're new around here, be sure to follow, subscribe, comment, like, whatever you're on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Be sure to subscribe. Leave us a nice review if you fancy as well. But yeah, today we're talking all things Valérien Ismaël, and we're going to be going through all of his past record and see what sort of manager we're getting at the Hawthorns next season, and potentially for the next 4 years as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into this episode of the Baggies Podcast. Welcome back. So firstly, let's talk about the details. We've signed former Barnsley manager Valérien Ismaël on a 4-year deal at the Hawthorns, paid a reported fee of £2 million to release him from his contract at Barnsley. And after completing quarantine, he'll take first team training and get in with pre-season as soon as possible with some big decisions to make. It's fair to say I think he's got some big decisions on his hands for this summer's transfer window. Who's he going to keep? Who's he going to sell? Does he think that players are going to be worth playing in his system? I don't know. But firstly, let's just have a little read about what Ismaël's intentions are. He's obviously said a few little words. He says he feels really proud to have accepted this new challenge, and after talking with Ken about the project here and how we would integrate new identity, I'm ready to get to work. I feel it's a big responsibility, but I'm ready for this job and delighted to be here. I know a lot about the club's history and the atmosphere at the Hawthorns, which is an amazing stadium, and the fans will make it a special place to play. This was the next step I wanted to take in my career, and I'm ready to work with everyone at the club. Although it's going to be a lot of hard work this season, I'm excited for the task in front of us. It's a big commitment from the club to want me to implement a philosophy I want for the next 4 years. My first task is to implement a new identity that the fans can enjoy, and one where they can see their players are there for each other and give everything on the pitch to win games. We have a clear plan and vision where we think we need to go. We have a good mix of young and experienced players in the squad, but we need some new faces in for certain positions. The only massive change here will be where we play, the way we play, and our formation. We're very happy with the group here, and it's about working on motivation and the mentality of the boys. There is more, but he says that they need to trust the process, and the purpose is to take the players and see them compete together. So there's obviously a little bit of a long-term vision. I'm going to give my stance basically first. I think that's fair to set off from the off as how I feel about it. I'm really happy. I'm really happy with this appointment. I think this gives me the sort of this is new, and it's a new era. This isn't a short-term thing. This isn't a short, quick decision that's going to keep us in the league. This is a long-term vision. He's clearly an up-and-coming manager. Let's have a little look through his managerial career, because obviously he's had some different managerial ventures in football, and let's just have a look at how he's sort of managed that and how he's gone through his managerial career. I think he's managed a few teams, but not as many. He's not perhaps as experienced as some of you might think. He's at the moment he's 45 years of age, but he's managed Hanover 96 second team. He's managed VfL Wolfsburg second team. He's managed Nuremberg. He's managed Wolfsburg second team, then Wolfsburg's first team. Apollon Smirnis, and then last, which I think was one of the slightly bigger jobs. The only thing you'd say is that these ones, they haven't actually given him a more than 4 year deal, to be honest. He's also been sporting director of LASK in Austria, so you may recognise them from when they played Manchester United in the Europa League. But yeah, that's sort of where he has been a sporting director, so he does know his football. And we've also got Barnsley as well. He obviously went to Barnsley, and we'll talk a bit more about that because that's where we sort of got our best insight into what sort of player we're going to get from him. And obviously, on June the 24th, he signed a 4-year contract with the club to join West Bromwich Albion, which is fantastic. So, after completing quarantine, he's going to join up with the first team. I think he's got a lot of big decisions, but I do like the appointment. I think it just spells something different from what we're used to, really. I know Slaven was meant to be a project, and I just hope they don't scrap this. I think that... Actually, we'll read Ken's statement from the Chief Executive Officer. I think we'll just go through what he said, because... The 45-year-old firstly is set to arrive in the UK later this week. Will follow government COVID-19 quarantine rules prior to joining the first team this season. Chief Executive Officer UK, also known as Ken, is delighted to have recruited his male and is confident that the former Nuremberg, Wolfsburg, Lask and Barnsley boss is the right man to lead Albion into the new campaign and beyond. He said, "I'm delighted to welcome Valérien to the Hawthorns. Valérien has established a reputation as an excellent coach, and I've been impressed by his professionalism, enthusiasm and hunger to succeed. His performance last season with Barnsley and his coaching career to date all point to a man who has a long, successful career in front of him. It's my hope that he's with us for the next 4 years, and I'm confident that working together we will achieve a goal of returning to the Premier League, but success is earned by building on strong foundations, and our plans must now look further into the future. For too long, we have focused on what is only immediately in front of us. This means we've neglected our long-term aspirations." So that is that's well, I said this on Twitter. It sounds. It may not be the case. It may just be a little bit of lip service, but it sounds like the penny may have dropped at the Hawthorns with the ownership. I feel like that is 4 years. We don't give out 4-year contracts. I don't think we have for quite a few years now. I think Slaven was 2, Sam Allardyce 1.5, Darren Moore 1.5. I can't remember who was before that. Tony Pulis was 3 or 4, granted, but we haven't given one of those out for quite a while. It's been quite a short-term thing. But this says that they firmly believe he's the man for the job. They wouldn't be putting people on 4-year deals if they thought they were going to be awful. Let's face that. Let's get that in our minds, because he's obviously a good manager. He's overachieved with the Barnsley side, which we'll talk more about in a minute. But for me, the penny's dropped with the ownership. I think the ownership is finally realising that this is now. You need to start planning for the future. You can't keep getting away with short-term options, loans, short-term managers, short-term fixes with loans and whatnot, and 6-month contracts and stuff. It's just not going to work. You need to plan for the future, because inevitably those players that are on loan or those managers that are at the club are going to fade away, and they're not going to be here for all that time that you need them. So it's about time we've started planning long-term. It's about time we started looking to the future, really, as a football club, because we don't really do that very often. We looked at Pulis when he first came in and thought, oh, he'll keep us up. We looked at, I think Darren Moore looked the closest to what we thought was going to be a long-term project, along with Bilic, but it just never really happened because they lost the patience too easily. But there's a reason they put them on 2-year contracts. So it's difficult, but of course we're going to make things the best we can. I think out of this, I think we're going to try and get some. I just hope for some better scouting and a better recruitment policy, because our recruitment is absolutely dire. It just revolves around loans. It revolves around aging players, or either players that just aren't good enough. I think that if we take a leaf out of somebody like Barnsley, probably Brentford's the prime example of this actually, just to buy players from different countries, try and integrate them into your system, try and get them playing in your reserves, maybe make your reserves a B team or something like that, and then start to really build on the football ethos at the club. You see, Brentford obviously they really do benefit from their partnership with I think it's the Danish team. Is it Nordsjælland or something? I can't remember the name of that one. So they do have their feeder team almost in. They do have their feeder teams over in different countries, which is obviously helpful, to be honest, as a football club. I think you look at teams like that and you think, well, they're doing things right, and we want to be like them. We don't want to quite be like Brentford because you don't want to copy them, but you do want to have that same ethos, and you do want to have that same sort of that interest with them. You want to have that same ethos, looking at players and looking at players that are going to do well in the future for you. So I quite like it. And I think it's going to do quite a good job, to be honest. And hopefully that this can come good, and this can be more of a long-term vision. But I'm going to go into now about what sort of play style that we're going to have. Obviously, I've mentioned that he's managed last before, so he's obviously got a bit of I think he's obviously got a bit of experience in the footballing mind of things. In last first ever experience in the Europa League, the team won the group. They won the group with a group of Sporting Lisbon, PSV Eindhoven, no Muppets in there, and Rosenborg. I don't know who they are, to be honest, but and they lost against Man United only just. But yeah, they are good. He is a manager, and they were good last, and Barnsley were good as well. Let's face that. He led them to a playoff position because in the previous season they narrowly avoided relegation, and with little or no signings. Yeah, in his career he's got 55% win percentage, so that's not too bad, is it? I know he's managed teams that are perhaps a bit different to ours. So you've got teams like Wolfsburg, second team, who obviously didn't do too badly, but there's teams in there that are going to do quite well with him. And obviously he's had a successful career as a player as well. He played for Bayern Munich at one point, Werder Bremen, Crystal Palace as part, Strasbourg. So he's a centre back as well. So that's another defender that we can add to our list of managers. So we've had Big Dave, we've had Slaven Bilic, we've had Big Sam as well as all defenders. So yeah, the only problem is with defending coaches, they don't tend to organise the defence too well, which I'm going to hope is not going to be the same with Valérien. But I don't even know. Is that how you say it? I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll go straight into my article, which I wrote for WBA Latest, which is, you probably have heard of them. They're quite a big news and media outlet with regards to West Brom. I wrote an article all about Ismaël and what we can expect from him. So if you want to go and listen to that, there will be a link in the description. Please go and have a little read if you don't like the audio version, really. So I wrote about how the deal was nearly sealed, and 35 days after it was 35 days on 3 days ago, so it's 38 days now. Ismaël is due to be announced as West Brom manager. Of course, he has been now, but he took a Barnsley side from 21st in the EFL Championship to a playoff semi-final, clearly showing a colossal turnaround. But what can Ismaël bring to the role of Albion manager? And can he influence West Brom and push us in upwards trajectory? So the first thing I said, that it's a big job for him. It's you've got Luke Dowling, who's left now, and the sporting director who's left the club because he's probably had enough of the way that the flippant and perhaps potentially overbearing nature of owner Guachel and Lai. But I feel like Ismaël can bring that unique and intuitive approach to the role, as he did during his time at Barnsley. He's never really rigid in his submissions, but he's always looking to kind of be tactically flexible, if you get what I mean. So he's never stuck to one formation, he's never stuck to one system. It's never, oh God, that's got to be the way. That's never changed, that's never working. But the one thing the former Palace player won't change is his commitment to hard work, intensity, and more importantly, pressing. Ismaël's Barnsley side, they pressed high up the pitch and they aimed to close down and cut out opposition passing lanes throughout the opposition defensive third. The tight side under Ismaël had 57% of their ball recoveries in medium to high areas of the opposition third. The championship average last season was 52%, so there's clearly a dedication to obtaining the ball high up the pitch. Let's just face that. So 57% being the average for Barnsley, and then 53% being the rest of the league average. So he obviously wants to win the ball high up the pitch. He wants to cause opposition defenders a problem. You saw when they played against Chelsea, didn't they? And they lost 1-0. And they were very, very hard to beat in that game, I thought they were really pressing Chelsea well in the wide areas. But this was developed primarily during his time at Lask, and it was quite really scripted across perfectly to his first season at Barnsley. I'd expect West Brom players to be given a really intense fitness course, to be honest, throughout pre-season. I mean, they are pretty fit after their time with Allardyce, because Allardyce did really whip them into shape, unlike Slaven Bilic, who didn't kind of whip them into as much shape as you might have liked. But so yeah, they will be in peak physical condition. Let's face that. There won't be any hangers on. There won't be any wasters or anything. This is going to be peak physical condition, unfortunately. The Barnsley side, a concern among Albion fans, however, has been the style of play when on the ball, with Ismaël being labelled a long ball merchant. But I know there's an element of verticality really in his Barnsley side, but there's not really. I think to play the long ball label is very very unjustified. Although he did have that element of verticality. That's just the nature of his strikers. He had Corley Woodrow and sometimes Daryl DK up front, who were both massive target strikers. There's no getting away from that. Neither of which had that much pace, I don't think. But yeah, so Barnsley, they try to create attacking overloads in wide spaces, allowing one of the typically two midfielders in a 3-4-3 formation to come wide and launching crosses, and also play devastating balls in behind opposition defence. So you've got Alex Mauer, who was very, very crucial to that, and he is actually due to become a free agent on July the 1st. Mauer grabbed 8 goals and 7 assists during the past season, being so essential to Ismaël's system. He came wide, he used to come wide and just whip these crosses into the box, and they were devastating for somebody like DK to be on the end of. Don't be surprised to see Mauer reunite with his former boss this summer. So, essentially, Alex Mauer has been reported by The Athletic to be, we're very interested in him. And obviously, we are favourites for that now because of Ismaël. I think that's, it's obviously going to be favourites. I'm not saying we're going to get him, but we are now favourites to pick up Alex Mauer on a free transfer. So I'm not too fussed about that. I think that's obviously a good signing. He's obviously 27 years old, I think, and he's done well over the past season for Barnsley. It just works because he works with Ismaël. I think that's probably the best thing about it. I think I think we are working quite hard, and we are working hard behind the scenes to work in those situations with Ismaël and all of that jazz. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I think Mauer could work. I think Mauer could be a good player in our system. But I think the true judgment of Ismaël's Barnsley team, Ismaël's West Brom side, is going to come when he's given more tools to work with. The Barnsley team he set up was largely down to lack of resources and a limited amount of attacking quality. They sort of tried to every game trying to bundle their way through the opposition back door rather than really incisively and creatively click the buttons and try and get in behind. But I'd hope as a manager of West Brom he'd have more sort of quality and more attacking players that he can penetrate opposition defensive a bit more incisively rather than just kind of lumping the ball over the top of them. Ismaël strikes me as a competent and adaptable manager with tactical setups built upon foundations of hard work, with ingenuity and innovation. I believe that he's got what it takes to lead us forward as a club. Additionally, he'll be able to scout out and source good value transfers, and he really is a manager on the up. So that's kind of what you can expect from him. High press, containing the opposition, progressive football. I doubt it'll be the same with us. I'm just saying I think it'll be slightly different with us. I think there might be some differentiation with regards to Ismaël. I think he's slightly different to the managers that you'll have had before. And I think it'll be slightly different, to be honest. I don't think that we'll be having too much to do with long ball. I think with better players in those attacking areas, you think about Barnsley, they didn't quite have the best attacking forces. However, I feel like with us, yes, we don't have the best attack at the moment, and yes, we could develop it a bit more, and yes, we could have better players in there. But I do think that we have got some good, very, very good players in there. So for starters, players, I think, I've done a little list of players I think who could flourish under him and players who I think may not flourish under Valérien Ismaël. So Ismaël likes to play a 3-4-3, which is a 3 at the back formation with wing backs, and then he likes to play. Basically, he likes to leave the 2 midfielders in fairly deeper positions. So 2 centre midfielders placed fairly deeper. So that would be, in the Barnsley system, was Mauer and somebody else. And then he has wing backs, which like to join up with that front 3, and they create an attacking 5 almost. So I think Furlong and Townsend will really flourish under this, and I think they do very well as wing backs. And I think they be able to get the crosses in the box to be able to sort of. I think they're quite good going forward. I don't know whether they're. I think Furlong's better going forward than going back, and I think Townsend better going back than forward. So I'm not sure whether that will tap into his interests or something like that. I mean, Grant, I think, could flourish. His diagonal attacking runs could be absolutely pivotal to what he's going to do. I mean, I know we're not going to play long ball, but if you want an element of verticality and you want those horizontal balls across the pitch, Grant's the man to run onto them for me. Or maybe Callum Robinson as well. I think that could be one for flourishing as well. And I believe with Romain Sawyers, actually, I think there's potential to be the shuttler in there. I'm not gesturing you. I do think Sawyers has got the potential to be the shuttler in there. I think if you relieve, I suppose his defensive abilities aren't quite good enough to play in that role maybe, but if he's only on the ball and he's only moving forward with it, I think, he's got the potential to be the shuttler. So, yeah, maybe Gustavo Hamer could do a better job than that. Maybe he could do a slightly better ability in that. But even somebody like Callum Styles, who played for Barnsley, could potentially come in and do a job. He was very good in both wing-back positions and indeed on the wing as well. However, there are a couple of players who I think may not flourish under the system. I know. Players who may not flourish. I don't think Grady Diangana would be, one of Ismaël's favourite players to start with. If he goes by what he's done at Barnsley, I'm not sure that Diangana would be a player of his favour. Simply because they didn't have that type of player, so maybe that's just because he didn't have that type of player, so he didn't play that type of player. Or maybe it's because he didn't want that type of player, so he didn't try and sign that type of player. You won't know until he gets here. But Diangana's one that I think maybe he's not that kind of, maybe that not like he didn't really have any tricky wingers in that squad, so I'm not sure whether Diangana would flourish. But I'd hope he does, because I really do like Grady, and back in the Championship, I think he can only do a good job. Pereira, if he stays, and he uses the 4-3-4-3. I'm not sure whether he particularly fit in to that forwards attacking five, because they like to stay close together. Pereira's very good when he's got some space in the middle and he's got space to play the ball in behind. He likes to almost push this five up against the opposition back line, and I'm not sure Pereira's best suited to that. However, I'd be willing to be proved wrong. I'd almost be more than happy to be proved wrong with that particular instant. But yeah, that's sort of who I think may flourish and may not. I think the strikers definitely, to go through some positions I think need to be signed in order to make things work. I think at centre-back we're missing, I think O'Shea could do a job there, but if he wants that ball-playing ability and he wants that vertical balls over the top, which I don't want to call long balls because we're not long ball merchants here anymore, we're not Pulis. I think I'd love to see Michael Healick come to the Hawthorns. I just would love that. A season at Barnsley, and he's done really well. I think he could do an absolutely sensational job. And I like Michael Healick. I'm not sure why he didn't get more caps for Poland at the Euros, but I do think he's a very good player, and I do think he's going to do he would do quite a good job at West Bromwich Albion. Formerly of Cracovia, who got a little scarf up there for. So I think potentially he could do a good job, but I don't think he'll come. He's only been there for a season, but then again, so was Ismaël. So potentially you could be seeing them reunite. Then centre midfield, I think there needs to be 2 more centre midfielders signed. I think Mowat needs to be signed. I think that's a must go to. I think he's a very good Championship player, and potentially could be Premier League quality under Ismaël. You might be able to guide him mould him into the player he wants. Obviously, he has been moulding him into the player for the past season. So it's a partnership already made for me. However, remains Sawyers, I think, on the centre midfield spot. I think I just feel like he could kind of do that shuttling role, but I feel like there's somebody else that needs to come in. I feel like feel like he was. I feel like there is room for improvement definitely in that midfield. There needs to be at least 2 or 3 midfielders coming in. I think Mowat needs to be one. I think there needs to be. I'd like to see the young lad Gustav Hamer from Coventry City maybe come in. There's plenty of other. I'm sure there's just more legs in the midfield. I think is needed, is what I'm trying to say. So the lineup, and then striker, I think is a position we need to improve. I don't know whether he's going to want a big and bulky striker, whether he's just used to playing with one of those, or whether he would want somebody more nimble off the ground. But if so, this is the lineup I'd go for next season. I'm providing that Pereira and Johnston are leaving, because I still think, no matter the change in manager, I do think there's going to be leaving in the club. So Palmer's goalkeeper, a back 3. This is who I'd like. I'd like Ajayi. I'd like Bartley. I might like O'Shea. I like O'Shea, but I'm not sure he'll suit the ball-playing element of it. But maybe Healick in there. But another centre-back would do. Then left wing-back Townsend. Centre midfield. I'm going to put Sawyers there for now because we haven't got anybody else. Okay, it could be Livermore, but he wouldn't play that role particularly well, I don't think. And then alongside Alex Mowat, who I'd love to see sign. Right wing-back Darnell Furlong. Right wing, I'd like to see Callum Robinson. And then left wing, Colin Garant. And then up front, potentially. I mean, Grant could go up front and then Grady could go on the left wing, but I'm not sure he'll be used to playing with a type of player like Grady, so potentially it could work like that. But yeah, that's just a little draft. I scribbled it down last night. I thought I'd just write a little draft out to who I think might be might be working and who might not be working. But I'm going to hear your thoughts now. I think it's about time it's enough of me. And so I've asked you guys some questions, of course, as I like to do. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank our appointment of Ismaël? What do you think he can bring to the club? He signed a 4-year deal. Do you think this is a good idea? Can he lead us towards promotion? First signing, just a position of improvement you want to see from him. So Dan Tudge says 6. Hopefully we get a strong team like there was at Barnsley. Good idea as long as we stick with him, even if we have setbacks. It's definitely possible, not guaranteed promotion. Keeping Pereira is the one signing that he wants to make. Ross Wood says he rates it a 10 out of 10 signing. So Ross likes this signing of Ismaël. A structured coaching method and leadership. If it signals long-term commitment, then yes. Otherwise, it's really dumb. Yes, but needs to be given time for promotion. Centre midfielders, but it's a dead heat with 3 others that he needs. So yeah, there's plenty of positions, as Ross says, that there needs improving. Centre midfielder being one of them, I think. I think that's the one you need to look at. But yeah, that's sort of a profile on Ismaël, I guess, and that's sort of what you guys have been saying about him, what we're looking for, and what sort of things that we're coming out with. However, that does bring us to the end of this episode of the Baggies Podcast. Great to make a little return. I think once we start making some transfer business, I think once the Euros are done, I'll be back with weekly podcasts. But for now, this is the only thing you're getting. You have to listen to this over and over again until the next one. Massive thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've given you a little bit of an insight into Ismaël and what sort of things he can bring to the club, and what sort of football man he is. And we can hope to see a really changed personnel and changed persona here at West Brom. And hopefully it leads us to greener pastures. And I really hope it does. But that brings me to the end of the Baggies Podcast for this week. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Baggies Podcast. You can find that in the description. You can read my article about Ismaël if you want. If you want to see it in print form on WBA Latest, that'll be in the link in the description as well. And if you want to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening from, and leave us a nice review or a comment, let me know your thoughts as well. I'd love to hear them in the comments. Let me know about your disappointment. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And leave us a like and a subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, Baggies fans. Have a fantastic week and enjoy the summer.